This session, like the free will session, is going to be one of your go-to lessons for showing how an all-loving God can coexist with evil. Welcome to Tested as Trained, where our goal is to present Scripture and the evidence for Christianity in a way that destroys arguments and pretensions of every kind that sets itself up against the knowledge of God in order to keep our kids in the faith. The purpose of this video is to guide your preparation for this session. You will have the correct answers to the questions, learn the key ideas, and gain some ideas for engaging your students in the discussion. Key takeaways for this session is number one, God has a great plan for us for eternity, which may include temporary struggles in this life. Number two, struggles bring Christians who respond properly into a closer relationship with God. Let's take a look at our questions. Question number one, God promises me a life without difficulty. That is false. Number two, Christians who seek God during difficult times are rewarded with a closer relationship with Him. That's true. Number three, people who do not believe in God have hope for an eternity of health after they die. False. Number four, it is possible for God to have a good enough reason to allow suffering in the world. That is true. And number five, evil and suffering in the world prove that God does not exist. False. As you think about possible exercises and examples, ways to engage the kids, if you haven't done so yet, begin to tie in God's plan of redemption for each of us. The only path to heaven goes through a decision for Jesus Christ. And that path and that decision would not be possible if Jesus hadn't paid the price for our sin through His brutal torture and death at the hands of Jewish leaders and Roman authorities. It was what we would consider evil, but God, who is all-knowing and all-loving, worked it out for the good of those who love Him and who are called according to His purposes. Discuss the mindset of the person who thinks that this life is all that they have. How do they look at evil and suffering versus someone who realizes that this is a temporary home? What if you paid for a movie that you'll never be able to see again, and the entire time people were talking, babies were crying, phones were ringing, people were asking to walk by you, and you couldn't see around the giant guy in front of you with the big hat on? That would be frustrating and make you angry. What if you realized that the movie was really a bad bootleg copy with a horrible sound, and that at some point you'd be able to see the real thing in amazing color and sound? Create an image for your kids that allows them to see your perspective when you believe that this world is all that there is, versus having an eternity in heaven with God, with Christ. Come up with your own examples. Remember to use current events or relate things that are happening in your community or in the lives of your kids to make these lessons real. Ask a bunch of questions. This next session is going to wrap up our time talking about good and evil. The topic is so important that this last lesson reinforces some earlier points and empathizes with anyone struggling to understand how a loving God could allow evil in the world. Respect your kids' intellect. Test their knowledge of Scripture and the evidence that supports the claims of Scripture, and you are training them to impact the world for Christ. I speak and train extensively on the topic of properly training our youth, and I'm happy to consider engaging with your organization too. Please send an email to me at b@bracebarber.com if you have any requests, questions, comments, critiques, or ideas. Have a blessed day.